What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another market update for mint on card vintage Star Wars action figures. As you can tell by the thumbnail, there were some pretty incredible Power of the Force mint on cards that sold. The prices were jaw-dropping. I mean, they were some massive prices. We're going to dig into all those, as well as some early card backs. I got some ESB card backs, some Return of the Jedi, and but really the focus is going to be on this lot of Power of the Force figures. There's some really rare ones, as you can see by this thumbnail. The Nickto and the Adhat Driver were New Zealand and Australian exclusives. So I knew they were going to go for big money, but I was not prepared for just how much. It was just pretty amazing. So let's go ahead and dig right in. The first one is a 20 back C Ben Kenobi. It was only graded AFA 50. You can see some obvious card damage there. 50, 50, 85 were the subscores. So it's not often you see two 50s along with an 85. But I don't know why it got the 50 on the blister. It did have a ding at the top, but my guess is it was probably cracked. The card had some wave to it and things like that. But anyway, let's see what it says here. This item is verified to have come directly from the collection of ex-Kenner employee Craig Stokely. So that might be why this one sold for so high. I mean, obviously it's a 20 back Ben Kenobi, so there's going to be some demand no matter what the grade, but being an ex-Kenner employee, that adds a little bit of gravitas to it. That one sold for $715 plus $18 shipping. Now, let's do the supposition that this was not owned by a Kenner employee. What would it have sold for? I would guess $400 to $500. That would be my estimate on it. And maybe even that's high. I don't know. But because it is only an AFA 50. But given that it was owned by a ex-Kenner employee, according to CIB's Certificate of Authenticity, that added a little bit of extra value to it. Some people like to collect those kind of things, but here's the back of the card there. You can see the obvious damage at the bottom of the card back there. So anyway, that is what it sold for. Next up, this is one I had in my What to Buy video. This was a 31 back ESB unpunched Lando Calrissian. This was the 31 back B. I don't know. I think it was the 31A that was his debut card, but maybe it was a 31B. I don't know. It did have a LaBelle's price sticker in the upper right-hand corner. I guessed, when I made that What to Buy video, that it was sold for between $500 and $550, and I was high. It came in at $415 plus $15 shipping. The subscores were 80, 90, 85 for an overall 80 plus from Collector Archive Services. So to me, that's a pretty good value. I'm not sure that you could pick this one up ungraded for that price. So that was a really good buy in my mind. If you can live with the price sticker, it's kind of an ugly spot there, but it is an unpunched card, clear blister, nice Lando. To me, that's worth every penny of $415. Next up, this was an interesting one. This is a 45 back A card back for the Canadian version of the Black Bespin Security Guard. You can see the Star Wars Display Arena offer in the multi-language there. It's got the English and the French. It did have some major frosting going on the figure, so that is a common problem for some of these figures. I don't know if I've seen it this bad in a long time, but as I've talked about in past videos, this does happen, especially with the Death Squad Commander on the helmet. You often see it, but this Bespin Security Guard definitely has some serious mold growing on him. He needs to get out more. He needs to get some sun, and as we talked about, you can probably put this underneath like a UV lamp to kind of kill that fungus that's growing on him. Sometimes it comes back, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it removes it, sometimes it doesn't. But it was an unpunched card. It did have some yellowing to the blister, but I think because of that heavy frosting on the figure, that held the price back. It sold for $238.50, probably about right. I think if it had been clean with a clear blister, you could easily double, maybe even triple that price point. So $238 is probably about fair, given the condition issues. Next up, I thought this was a really good buy. I saw this available as a buy it now situation. I was awfully tempted. I came really close, but then I came to my senses and I said, John, you don't have any money to spend right now. Let it go. You need to let it go, John. So this was the 47 back ESB for the Sand People. It was in pretty great shape overall. I think it would score easily an 80 grade. Maybe not. I mean, it had that one little crease in the lower left-hand corner, but I still think it would eke out as like a 75, 80, 85, somewhere in that ballpark. There was no staining to the cape of the Tusken Raider. It was a punched example with a price sticker, but $175? $175 is a bargain. That's an absolute bargain in my mind. I believe there was a a 41 back A free survival kit offer that was for sale on LCG auctions, and it was a CAS 80. And that one sold, I think, after the buyer's premium for around $600. I know it's not the exact same car, but 41, 47, it's in that ballpark. And it was a very similar condition. So 175, man, that is a great buy. That's a really great buy. I mean, the crease is not that bad. It really only shows up on the back. So I think it would get the 75 for the card score. But the condition of the blister and the figure would bring it up to an overall 80. And I think that's worth every penny, if not more, for that one. That was a really good buy there. Next up was another one in my what to buy video. This was the Sakuda card back made for the Japanese market. It's got that Japanese kind of import sticker on the back of the card. Unpunched with a clear blister. This one does tend to stay clear. It did have some condition issues to the card. A light crease in the upper left, as well as kind of an indent on the right-hand side. I said it would sell for around maybe $250. It sold for $172.50. So my guesses on these final sales prices are never right. I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. But $172.50 plus $20 shipping, I thought that was a really good buy, just given that's a clear blister. Most of these Sakuda Return of the Jedis do yellow, and they get really brittle. The blisters, in my opinion, are even thinner than the U.S. card back, so they're very, very fragile. And really, I think that card back was in good shape. You know, it did have that kind of score there from probably when someone opened the box originally from the Kenner factory. So, you know, that probably held the price back. That's something I didn't really notice that closely when I put it in my what to buy video. And that's probably the main culprit as to why it held the price back so much. But still, $172.50, I think it's worth every penny of that. This was another one in my what to buy video that did sell. It was an unpunched 65 back B Bosk clear blister. And this one sold for $325. I think that this was a good buy. There was one at Vectis that was, I believe, an AFA 80 that sold for about double this price, if not more. And this one was by no means perfect. It did have a ding on the blister, as well as a light crease on the back of the card, as you can see there in the right angle there. But probably a 75 plus, maybe a low 80 score if it was graded. And you know, again, it was unpunched with a clear blister. Hard to find that as it is for any character, much less Bosk. And $325, I think, was a good buy. This was another good buy. This was a yellowed blister, 85 from UKG. This was sold over here in the U.S. It was a 77 back Han Endor, unpunched, no price sticker, $251. $251 plus $15 shipping. There's no way I'd sell mine for that price, but that's a really nice looking example. 85, 85, 90 were the sub scores on that 77 back A. I mean, goodness. I mean, you know, it's hard to find any mint on card for Han Endor these days for that price, much less that high of a grade. So to me, that is a really, really good buy there. Next up was a 77 back Luke Jedi, AFA 80, very heavily yellowed blister, but it was unpunched. Pretty great shape overall. 80, 85, 90 were the sub scores. So again, it was very yellowed, but you know, I was expecting kind of $550 range. That one sold for $465 plus $30 shipping. So about $495 after shipping, before taxes. So maybe after you account for taxes, I wasn't too far off on that one for once. Next up was a Tri-Logo 2-1B. This is a really tough one to find on the Tri-Logo card back. I've got this one in my collection, and it did take some digging. And it also, I paid a lot more for mine than this one. Mine's an AFA 85. I think it's straight 85s. And this one sold for $217.50. And it did have some condition issues. This is probably at best like a 75 grade. But, you know, again, you know, the 2-1B droid on the Palatoy Tri-Logo or any Tri-Logo, Meccano Tri-Logo, in general, they just don't show up that often. And I think $217 for that one was a good buy if you can live with the condition issues. And now I believe it's time to dig into what Lee's Toy Review had all at auction. All of these closed on Sunday night, and they were just an incredible lot of mint on card Power of the Force. And we're going to start low and then go to high, and the highs are really high, let me tell you, so stick around. This one is Warwick. It was unpunched. It was in pretty great condition overall. Not perfect. It did have a blister dent, but very moderately yellowed and, you know, pretty great shape overall. This is probably like a low 80 grade, maybe a 75 plus. That one sold for $242.50. I mean, you think about what Warwick goes for loose, ungraded. To get that one for $242.50 was a bargain. And again, this goes back to what we talk about with the fact that when there are really, really high demand, rare items auctioned off at the same time by the same seller, ending at the same time and all that, you can oftentimes get the more common ones for pretty good deals. And this is another example of that. This is the Pap Blue. The blister was in great shape overall. You can see down there that I think this one was made in Mexico. It doesn't say it on there, but it doesn't say it on the back. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Right underneath the barcode, it says made in Mexico. So as I thought, I believe all Pap Blues and Lumats are made in Mexico, and that's probably why that blister is still fairly clear. The Warwick, I think, is the Warwick. The Warwick is made in Hong Kong, so I take that. It's Lumat and Pap Blue are the two that are made in the Mexican Lily Letty factory. So they use a different kind of blister, and that's why they do stay clear. That one sold for $285. It was a punched example, no price sticker, but in really great shape. That's one of the cleaner Power of the Force Pap Blues I've seen in a long time. The Imperial Gunner, last 17. This was unpunched with moderate yellowing, and card was in great shape. $383. It did say that the blister was dented, as you can see at the top there, and it did have a light ding there, but to me, this is worth every penny of $383. The blisters, that would probably hold it back from getting an 80 grade. Pretty major crease there. If I can get this thing to work, there it goes. So you can see right there, it's pretty heavily dinged at the top there. It looked a lot better from the front, but once you see that angle, you can see that it's pretty heavily dinged and would probably score 75 at best. And that's probably what kept the price down, but still, if you look at it from the front, that presents really nicely for $383. I'd pay that all day long. Next up was the Imperial Dignitary, another last 17 unpunched. And as we talked about, the yellowing of the blister on the Power of the Force Imperial Dignitary, it kind of blends in somewhat nicely with the purple background of the card back. That one sold for $431. That's one of the higher prices I've seen in a while, although it was in really fantastic condition. Next up was Tebow. This is one that's always sneakily rare. This one is always pretty expensive. The Tebow on the Power of the Force card, again unpunched, and the blister was in pretty great shape, just very light yellowing. $481.66 on that one. So you can see there that even though it's a fairly common figure, because it's on the Power of the Force card, which is tough to find, that price can be pretty elevated. Wicket, this one also came in a little higher than I expected. Very light yellowing to the blister. Again, it blends in nicely with the card back, but that one sold for $545. $545 for that one. And given what power, the Power of the Force is one thing. Even just the standard Return of the Jedi, heavily yellowed, that U.S. release, that one's nearing this kind of price. So any Wicket, just for whatever reason, just continues to command big money on the secondary market. Leia Organa on the Power of the Force card. That's another one that's kind of expensive. I wasn't expecting $569. This one sold for $570 plus $13 shipping. Again, the card was in great shape. The blister in good shape with moderate yellowing, but $569. That was a little higher than I expected on that one. But now it's time to dig into some of the more expensive ones that came out. We had EV99. That blister was very lightly yellowed, not too bad at all. Again, unpunched with no price sticker. Just some light wear here and there on the front of the card back, but $725 for that one. That's kind of right in line with market. I've seen kind of $650 to $800, so that's kind of right in the middle there. And I think that's worth every penny for a nice last 17 mint on card. Torture Droid. Next in the big boys, we've got Luke Skywalker, Imperial Trooper. Now, we just documented on the channel an uncirculated 90 loose graded that sold for $3,000 plus. This one is mint on card. It looks like it might have some fraud. I can never tell. Anytime I see a mint on card Luke Skywalker Stormtrooper, the hair always looks frosted to me. I don't know what it is. It just always looks like it's got a little bit of frost going on. It's kind of known for it, but it's just something about the way it looks inside that blister. So I don't know if it did or not. It looks like it to me, that it's got just some light frosting on the hair. But still, that one sold for $1625, which, again, relative to that U90 grade, that was an older style case, by the way, from AFA. Again, that one sold for $3,000 plus. This one sold for half that price. So really good buy on that one. Yoda on the Power of the Force card. We all know that this one was going to be expensive. I said it would probably go for around $2,000, and it sure did. $2,025 for a punched example, but this is one that did not pop up very regularly. It's very, very expensive when it does show up, but $20.25 plus $13 on that one. And then finally, we've got the last two that were New Zealand and Australian exclusives. So the Nickto, the Adhat Driver, which I'm going to show you in a second, and the Gamorrean Guard, those three on the Power of the Force card are very pricey because they were only released down south, down under. Put another strip on the Barbie. Shout out to Usual Mike. This is the Nickto, and it sold for $2,920. I think I said it was going to, I put this in my what to buy video. I think I said it was going to be between $2,000 and $2,500. Don't quote me on that. Sometimes I misremember what I think it's going to sell for, but that one did sell for almost $3,000. $3,000. But as crazy as that one was, this one takes the cake. The Adhat Driver, which admittedly is probably, other than maybe, Anakin Skywalker on the Power of the Force card, or the Kenner Canada Yak Face on the Power of the Force card, this one is probably the third most expensive, and the price reflected that. It sold for $7,226, the Adhat Driver on the Power of the Force card. It was in great shape overall. It did say it had a light ding on the blister there. It's very minor, though. Probably an overall 80 would it be what I would give it personally, based on the photos. But wow, what a number. That is a massive number for an ungraded mint on card. But again, this and the Nickto, I don't know if I've ever seen the Nickto and the Adhat Driver for sale at auction on eBay. But nevertheless, there is another Power of the Force Nickto at auction right now on eBay, believe it or not. So, you go years without seeing this stuff, and then two show up within a week of each other. It's just mind-blowing to me. But anyway, that one did sell again for $7,225 and change, plus $13 shipping. So just a massive number, and maybe one day we'll see a Yak Face or an Anakin Skywalker show up on the Power of the Force card at auction, and I bet both of those would blow through $10,000 pretty easily. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, there was a Power of the Force Yak Face that did sell, that was a mint on card. I think it might have had a cracked blister, and it still sold for like $7,000 or $8,000. So very, very high demand for those rare card backs. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at some recent sales on eBay. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I will be back soon.